Welcome back, fight fans. It's going to be a slightly shorter one today. We're just going to be talking about last week's event, UFC Vegas 43, because obviously there's going to be no event on Saturday. So next week, of course, we'll talk about the next one, which will be UFC Vegas 44. Font and Aldo, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. So I guess it'll be a short one today. No breaks in there, just a short recap. We'll talk about all the fights though. Instead of just picking some of the prelims and talking about those, we'll talk about every single one. So let's get started. Last week we saw a card that was full of finishes. What was it? 9 out of the 11 fights. And this time the exact opposite of that. We had a card full of decisions. It was 10 out of the 11 fights were decisions. I'm not saying it was a bad card. There were still some good fights thrown in there, but it definitely wasn't. You had UFC 268, then 269, or was it 267 and 268? I can't remember. You had those two pay-per-views, insane. Then you had Holloway Rodriguez, also insane. And then you just have this. So, already not an amazing card. And then you compare it to those, even worse. But it was still good. I'm still going to watch them all. You should still watch them all. They're still good. Anyway, moving on. Sadly, the fight that I was most excited about, and I think a lot of people were really excited about it, was canceled. You had McKinney and Fares Ziam I still don't know how to say his name, but Fares. You had McKinney and Fares. It was canceled because apparently I believe it was one of McKinney's corners either had COVID or had a positive test or something. I'm not really sure. So they had to cancel that one. I really hope that they get it rescheduled before the end of the year. It sounds like maybe they're trying to, but Fares isn't from the States or even North America, so it seems like that might be probably a problem. That's what I'm guessing. So we'll see. I really hope that gets rescheduled. I was excited for that. And I know Terrence really wants to get that fight in before the end of the year so he can try and get 5 first-round KOs in 1 year, or at least 5 wins in 1 year. I mean, that would be absolutely insane. Anyway, so that was not one of the fights that we saw. But we did see the return of Lupi Godinez, a great fight between Yanez and Grant, and a pretty good performance by Tyler Santos and Sean Brady. Yeah, so we'll start off with the prelims, of course. We'll go in order, as we always do. The first one, Luana Pinheiro and Sam Hughes. Luana got the decision here. She was a huge favorite going into it. I'm pretty sure I had even said to use that as, what's the word I'm looking for? As the parlay. I think I had mentioned her. If not, maybe it was because the odds weren't quite as good as I had hoped, but she was a favorite going into it. And I mean, she clearly proved why. She was just way ahead in every department. She was ahead in the grappling. She got a lot of judo throws. Even Cormier pointed out how many judo throws there was on Saturday. And it was actually noticeable. I was even kind of like, you don't normally see that, but now everybody's doing it. They all landed them though, so I guess it's working. Maybe that's a new thing. Calf kicks, judo throws. I don't know. Excuse me. Hughes did show some momentum later in the fight, but then she got knocked down in the second round. After getting knocked down like that, it's too late, basically. I mean, if you lose the first two, which she clearly did, you can try and come back in the third, but unless you're getting a finish, you're probably not getting it done. And yeah, Pinheiro just got that very convincing, unanimous decision win. After that, we had Shailan Norden-Becky and Sean Soriano. The bettors had Soriano as the favorite for this bout. I also had picked Soriano, but I remember actually looking this up when I was making my picks, and I remember thinking, I was like, there's something about Norton Becky here. I don't know. I think they're kind of underestimating him here, even though he was kind of Norton Becky was definitely the underdog here. But it was very, very close the whole fight. The first round went to Soriano. He controlled everything on the feet. The second one went to Norton Becky when he took it on the ground. So it really came down to the third round, of course. And what do you do when you're facing a striker? You got to take him down. It's what he did in the second. So Shailan did that in the third, and that's how he got the win. He just took him to the ground right away. That's what you do. You control him down there the entire round, and then just edged ahead on the cards. You know, it wasn't an amazing win. You're not going to make any highlight reels, but play to your strengths. That's what he did. He won, you know. After that, we had Cody Durden and Iori Chilang, which on most websites, that's actually two names, Aori and Chilang. But for some reason on TV, it was one full name. So honestly, I have no idea which one's right. I don't know if it's one word, one name, or two names. I genuinely have no idea. I couldn't find the answer. Anyway, this fight was very close for all three rounds. Aori seemed to be better on the feet because of his extra activity and the power, but Durden controlled parts of it along the fence and on the ground. The judges saw it as 29-28 for Durden. Honestly, I think I probably would have leaned in the other direction, but it could have gone either way. It wasn't one of those robberies. You know, we didn't see any robbery here. We just saw, you know, it was a bit of an iffy decision, you know. Nothing on Twitter about that. I mean, really, the only thing on Twitter about this fight was, of course, what Durden said after, which was, I don't know. Yeah, not cool. When I heard about it on Twitter, because I hadn't watched the fight yet, when I heard about it on Twitter, I was like, the way he sounds, making it sound, it didn't sound that bad. And then I listened to it on the actual after the fight, and I was like, yeah, that's not good. Yeah, you should not say shit like that. And then of course we saw on Twitter after all of the other stuff that he said before, not good, not a good look. Probably not going to last in the UFC if you're going to say shit like that, especially if you're not really doing much as a fighter here either. But anyway, after that, we had my first prelim of the night that I was talking about last time. You had Loma Lookboonmee, Lupita Godinez, the hero of, is it Ladner or Langley? I keep forgetting where she fights. Either way, the hero of the Vancouver area. And I was also talking about it, of course, because this is her third appearance in less than, I believe it was 6 weeks, which I think I heard on the broadcast was actually a modern UFC era record. That's pretty cool. And I mean, that's already crazy. I mean, I haven't been doing this show for too long, and I've talked about her 3 times. I mean, that should tell you enough, really, already. And of course, she's Canadian. That was the other reason. And just, yeah, you know, I mean, like, you come in, you win the fight, you win by the arm bar in the first fight, then you lose a close decision in a weight division up, and then you're coming in again. You know, I gotta talk about you, of course. I had this as Godinez by decision because I said Loma is a kickboxer. That's what she is. So I thought Godinez would use, well, she's also a little bit taller, Godinez, and yeah. So, I mean, you know, you're facing a short striker, so it kind of makes sense. Godinez, you know, take Loma against the fence and on the ground. Just control her that way, especially since you competed in the weight division up and got that close decision loss. I thought it was a pretty easy choice here. And you know what? On the feet, it was actually, excuse me, wow. On the feet, it was actually pretty even because she somehow actually had some extra speed over Loma, which honestly, I did not see coming, especially since you're talking about a world-class kickboxer here. I thought it would have been Loma on the feet would have been, you know, definitely better. And then Loopy, of course, on the ground being much better. But no, Lupi used a lot of her speed, landed quite a few strikes. I mean, yeah, Loma used her kickboxing to land a lot of kicks. Didn't seem to phase Lupi too much. The difference here, of course, which is what I said before, and of course, it's pretty clear if you look at it on paper. Lupi used her ground game. When she got on the ground, she was in control pretty much the whole time. And then at the start of the third, she actually even had a pretty deep heel hook. They're fun to watch, but at the same time, it's kind of like, ugh, I hope I'm never in one of those. Because, yeah, I want to walk after. After 3 rounds, the judges gave the unanimous decision win to Godinez. Pretty easy choice. Yeah. Oh, and what do we see next for those two? Well, after doing that good against somebody who actually, I believe Lukbunmi was ranked up until I think a couple fights ago. I mean, Lupi's shown that she's definitely a contender in the strawweight division. I mean, especially since what she did, even the division up. And like I said, the armbar in the first one. And now this, I mean, like I said, she was competing on the feet with a world-class kickboxer, and then she was great on the ground. I mean, that's impressive to be that well-rounded. So, I mean, you're obviously going to be a contender. She's got to get somebody in the top 15 now. You have to, especially after 3 fights in 6 weeks. I mean, the UFC is probably losing their minds. They've got to give her a top 15 person. And since Loma's only UFC loss was to Angela Hill, and since Hill lost her last one out, I think that is actually the perfect matchup. Also, just even outside of the cage, both of them love to fight anybody at any time. So it seems like the two perfect people to match up. I think that could honestly be maybe even no, I don't know. They probably wouldn't make it a co-main, but it could be. It's definitely on the main card. Maybe in the second or third fight of the main card. I would love to see that. Seriously, that's a great matchup. And you know what? Again, honestly, I mean, it's crazy to talk about considering she just fought, but we could see maybe even December. They could probably talk it out and they'd both sign up that fast. That's just who both of them are. So I would love to see that. After that, we had my other prelim that I wanted to talk about. Yep, because there was only 2. Yep, just needed to check. It was Rafa Garcia and Natan Levy. I featured this one because it was the first appearance of the undefeated Contender Series alum, Natan Levy. He was only 6-0 and he hadn't fought this year, so it was looking a bit iffy, but as I mentioned, you kind of usually lean towards the undefeated fighter. But I knew this was going to be pretty close. I had said it was a complete toss-up, especially with Garcia's kind of questionable record. I was just saying from a betting perspective, though, it definitely made sense to go with Levy, especially since he had the extra reach, too. And you know what? This was actually a pretty even fight. The judges really could have gone either way with this. Both of them landed a lot of shots and a couple takedowns each. And both of them should actually be pretty happy, I would say, with how they did. It was pretty good. And the judges ended up seeing this one as a unanimous decision win for Garcia. We lost that one, of course. But like I said, honestly, they both did so well. Good for both of them. They both did pretty well. After that, we had the last prelim of the night. We had Pat Sabatini and Tucker Lutz. Started off close. Sabatini started to pull ahead, though, with all that control on the ground. I mean, really, it was just like that the whole fight, really. Sabatini just smothered Lutz against the fence and on the ground the whole time. It was just a dominant decision win for Sabatini. There's not really much else to say about that. It was just completely one-sided on that one. So yeah, he looked really good. Still not really, I would say, good enough to be, somebody in the top 15, especially in that division, but still impressive, and he's getting there. After that, we had the main card, of course, opening up with my fight of the night, Adrian Yanez, Davy Grant. And just like last week's card, this one opened up with the bantamweight bout that we all knew was going to be great. On this one, I was going with Yanez, not because of the experience, because Grant definitely had the more experience. But I mean, he only got in the UFC a little over a year ago. He had already had 3 KO victories. What else was there here? Oh yeah, Yanez is also 8 years younger. He's won and finished all of his UFC opponents. And obviously Grant lost a few already. So I was definitely going Yanez here, and I did say that Grant hadn't been wow, Grant hadn't been finished by punches yet, but I did say that maybe Yanez had the power, so I was kind of going towards a Yanez finish, but we saw that chin, and this was one of those, of course, many decisions of the night. And this is exactly what we thought it was going to be, this fight. I mean, both of them had some great moments. Yanez used his technical skills to kind of pick Grant apart. And then Grant got his huge hits in, which with his kind of weird, unorthodox kind of boxing techniques. And after 3 rounds, it honestly just came down to how the judges saw it. I really could have seen this going either way. Grant was pretty bloody after all the strikes. If you're looking at the numbers and if you're really paying attention to the fight, that doesn't necessarily mean that the person lost. But I don't know. I was maybe kind of leaning Grant, but again, this was one of those ones where whoever won this one, I was fine with it. A lot of people on Twitter disagreed because a lot of people were saying that Grant won. A lot of people were saying that Yanez won. Some people were pretty angry about it. I don't know. I wouldn't have been angry on either side. Like I said, it was just so close. It was so tight on the decision there. But I will say, though, the one bit of controversy, and obviously Twitter lost it with this. I mean, the scorecards, we've talked about this over and over and over again, almost every week, really. One of the scorecards was 30-27 to Grant. I mean, you've got to be out of your fucking mind to score it like that, or you have to be literally not watching at all. Because, yeah, Grant might have won the fight for sure, but there is no way in hell that Yanez didn't win a single one of those rounds. Like, he definitely won. I think it was the first one where he very clearly won. There was one of those rounds in there that was like, okay, he obviously won that one. But yeah, 30-27, unfucking believable. Anyway, so in the end, we saw the split decision for Yanez. And what's next for them? I mean, really, what can you say about Yanez? He looked so good, and it's a crazy division. I don't think he's going to be able to jump up the rankings too quick because it's just that packed. I mean, that division is crazy. But he can definitely compete with somebody at the bottom of the top 15, and I think that's probably what's next for him. We're probably going to see somebody like Song or Frankie Edgar. Either one of those would be amazing. And I really said the same thing about Song too. Song could go against Edgar too. And all those 3 could fight each other. I mean, all 3 of those are good. Like those are great options there. I think any of those could be fight of the night. They really could be. Especially since, we saw it coming with this. We knew this was going to be one of the fights of the night, and it was the fight of the night for sure. Anyway, but what people really want to see, and it might happen because one of them made a hint at it possibly, is we might see the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley, who's fighting in 2 weeks. 3 weeks. We might see him and Yanez go next after Sugar probably wins this next one. Would I love to see that? Yes, of course I would love to see that. And everybody on MMA Twitter would love to see that fight. But let's be honest. For one, Sean is probably going to win pretty easily the one he's doing in the next few weeks. And honestly, from what I've seen, yes, Yanez is great. But I think Suga's just like his striking is just so unbelievably good. It's definitely would crush um, Adrian Yanez here. But regardless of that, I would still love to see that fight. It would be so good. That is an easy, even a co-main. That could be genuinely a co-main on the right card here. That would be so good. Anyway, and like I said, they actually might have hinted at it because Suga actually mentioned maybe even March that he might fight Yanez. I don't know. We'll see. Of course, you got to wait until 3 weeks from now when he's done his fight. I mean, it's a little bit early when you're not even done Paiva yet. I mean, come on. You don't want to look through him, even though you're probably going to win anyway. I mean, still, you still don't want to take him for granted. Anyway, after that, we had 2 veterans here. We had Ronnie Yaya, Kyung Ho Kang. And on paper, this was dead even on paper. Yeah, I mean, like, especially since I don't know. Well, yeah, no, it's just 2 UFC veterans. They're dead even on paper. They're both more for on being on the ground. So I mean, everything kind of made sense. Well, at least that's what I thought. I thought because we were seeing maybe 2 wrestlers here that we were going to see a stand-up fight, but that's not really what happened. It actually ended up being that Kang decided to throw out the ground game altogether and really just went for the striking. So we were actually really seeing a striker and a wrestler here. And we always know how that goes. Usually, well, most of the time, the wrestler controls the other guy on the ground. And even though Kang is a little bit of a wrestler, I mean, Yaya is just so good at controlling people on the ground. It was unbelievable. It really was. I mean, especially for somebody that's kind of nearing the end of their career too, it's pretty crazy to see when somebody can do that when they're, getting on in the game. And right away we saw that Yaya knew he was going to win on the ground. I mean, right away he got the early takedown, got some ground control. And on the feet though, it was actually Kang who was doing quite a bit. He actually got 2 knockdowns and he stumbled Yaya more than once. So it really was actually more of a striker versus a wrestler in this one. But because of all that ground control, Yaya just won based on that. And that's fair. That's what all you got to do as a wrestler. You got to really commit to being on the ground, control the person on the ground there, using that experience really. So Yaya got that one, but it was a bit iffy. Like I said, there were 2 knockdowns. Normally, if you get knocked down twice like that, it's not looking good. And it wasn't looking good, but he still came out ahead in that one. So good for him. I mean, I actually can't remember how old he is, but he's still looking great. And I don't know if he can be a contender in the top 15, but he's definitely somebody that's, if you want to prove yourself, you should probably fight Ronnie Yaya. Kind of like a gatekeeper almost. After that, and I don't mean that in a bad way, I like you got to love gatekeepers. I don't know why that's a bad kind of word when you're talking about fighters too much. I think gatekeepers are important like that. After that, we had Joanne Wood, formerly Calderwood, and Tyla Santos. I had Santos by decision here because we're talking about which division is that? Bantamweight? No. Flyweight? Possibly? I think it was flyweight. Anyway, so yeah, I had Santos by decision here. And you know what? Started off tight. It really did. And then it just quickly went in favor of Santos. And I did say that it could be going this way because on paper, Santos looked so much better, I would say. What else did she have? I mean, she had the extra win, or no, not the extra wins. Oh, she was undefeated 18-1, not undefeated. She was 18-1, 7 years younger. Had a bit of an edge in reach. And I mean, if you're even just looking at the 2, there's a pretty clear edge in Santos in terms of the strength and probably a fitness level. So obviously I was leaning towards Santos. I did not think she was going to do what she did end up doing. But yeah, she was just faster, more powerful. She dropped JoJo twice, and it seemed as though Santos was going to get a KO. That would have been insane. Instead, she got the crazy submission, and she got it at the end of the first round. You don't normally see first round subs, but she got one. And of course, that was sub of the night. It was also the only finish of the night. So that's, but still, it was good enough that it was probably going to get sub of the night anyway. But yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, Santos looking absolutely insane. And what's next for Santos, really? After absolutely dominating the fifth ranked contender JoJo here, I mean, Santos has thrown herself right at the top here. Realistically, she could actually be lined up for a title shot since everyone else has actually already fought Shevchenko. There's not too many options left for Shevchenko. If not, Chukagian or Andrade would be an interesting matchup. And then whoever wins that, gets the title fight. Yeah, I think either one of those would be good. I mean, it sounds crazy that, oh, you beat the person in fifth, so you deserve a title shot, especially since you haven't been in there that long. But you know what? When you do that, and especially since Shevchenko is so active, it kind of starts to make sense more that she should actually be just fighting for the title. I mean, we saw Lauren Murphy go. So I think Santos has a much better chance than Lauren Murphy. No offense to Lauren Murphy. But yeah, after that, we had the co-main. We had Michael Chiesa, Sean Brady. On this one, I had Brady by finish, mainly because of his spotless record, of course, the 14-0 record, his submission skills. Also, Chiesa's kind of weird record. I mean, it's just bizarre. I mean, he's a wrestler, but he's also been submitted by Masvidal. It's just the whole thing is bizarre with his record, especially since he got submitted in the first round last time. Brady just looks so good that I just figured, we'd probably see a finish here. But we didn't. It was a strange start to the fight, though. 2 eye pokes from Chiesa. Disgusting. But after that, both of them kind of settled in, and it was a tight fight the whole way, really. Chiesa had a couple of moments on the feet. He stumbled Brady. But, I mean, really, the whole fight was kind of just Brady's ground control, just showing really how strong he is. And, I mean, we saw in a clip after, if you were looking on MMA Twitter recently, you could actually hear Chiesa saying how strong he really was, actually, that he had kind of underestimated how strong he was while they were fighting, by the way, which is interesting. I love to see that. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, Brady just showed how strong and how good he really is. And although it looked like Chiesa was going to get a comeback finish late in the third, Brady edged ahead on the cards and he won the unanimous decision. Makes sense. As for the future, Brady's saying he wants the winner of Bilal and Wonder Boy. That would be a fair matchup. Although, I don't know. That would be fair. But, and I know this would be terrible for Brady, but it might be the perfect person for Chimaev. I really do think so. Because, Brady's on his way up. Chimaev is on his way up. Brady just beat Chiesa. So... you kind of need somebody that's there. You need both people. Actually, yeah, they're both undefeated. That would also make sense too, because they're both undefeated. I actually just realized that. Yeah, but I mean, yes, that would be terrible for Brady, but it would make sense as a matchup to do. And then, Chimaev would probably win that. And then you might fight somebody in the top 3, top 4. And then whoever wins that maybe gets the title shot. I don't know. Anyway, the winner of Neal and Ponzinibbio might be another interesting one. And that's, I believe, in the next card. So we'll talk about that next week, of course. That one would be interesting for... That honestly could be interesting for either one of them, actually. I was looking at my notes here because they're slightly lower. So it would make sense for Chiesa, but if Brady wants to fight right away, it would make sense for him too, because both of them are pretty good. Neal and Ponzinibbio are both real good. Yeah. So after that, we had the main event. It was Ketlin Vieira and Miesha Tate. I had Tate by decision only because of all that experience. I mean, it was kind of hard to predict, really, because it was you had Tate, who's only had, just the one fight since she's been back. Before that, hadn't fought since 2016. Yeah. Yeah, there really wasn't much separating these two other than the fact that Vieta is 5 years younger. So, I mean, this one was a real coin toss to me. I even said you could kind of see that you were either going to see Tate coming back in strong, trying to get the belt, or you were going to see Tate coming in trying and then seeing that people were just kind of just that extra level ahead. And sadly, even though it was razor thin, this decision, she kind of showed that she isn't really just in that kind of space anymore. It's tough to see. You don't want to see somebody that's that good come back and then it's just not working. But that's kind of what we saw here. And yeah, it was a very close decision. But Vieta was, ahead in the striking. Tate was obviously better at grappling, but it was close on the cards, like I said, but it really didn't have to be. And that's kind of why I'm saying all this, because it's like, yeah, it was a close decision, but it didn't have to be. And I'm not really sure why Vieta made it that close, because every time that she even tried to go in on Tate to get the striking going, she succeeded wildly. I mean, it was every single time. So, and the announcer said this too. She really could have just pushed ahead more because Tate didn't have much coming back for her in the striking. So, and if she would have gone in, I honestly don't think Tate would have even gotten the takedown either right away. So, I mean, she could have just lit her up on the feet more. I really think she could have. She was landing crazy strikes the whole time. I mean, there's a reason why Tate's face looked like that after. And I really do think that if she would have just gone in even 3 or 4 more times, she probably could have landed a bunch of more strikes, maybe even gotten a finish there, And apparently that's actually kind of it's the same problem she had in her last fight too, I heard. I don't think I saw that. Actually, no, I probably did see that one, but I mean, I wasn't doing the show at the time, so I wasn't breaking it down as much. But she did that last time against Kunitskaya too. She thought she was ahead on the cards, so she wasn't doing much more. And she ended up losing that fight because she just wasn't active enough. And it just doesn't make sense when you're watching somebody like that, why they're not more active. Because it's not that she's incapable of doing it. It's that she doesn't think that she needs to. But that's not the way that you need to take a fight into consideration, because you're trying to win, like win by any means. Like, you don't want to get a decision win. You want to finish the person so that there's no doubt that you won the fight. Like, with a decision, you got split decisions. The decision could go a weird way. We've talked about judging, of course. So you want to go in there and win the fight. And I mean, sadly, we saw this with Woodley a little bit more, that, they get some good hits in and then they don't capitalize on it. And that's exactly what Vieta was doing here. And it's sad. It's sad to see, because Cormier even said, I think it was Cormier, it might have been one of the other, it might have been somebody else on here, but they even said that if she can get over that, she actually kind of has the skill set of Nunes. Obviously not as good, because nobody's as good as Amanda Nunes, except for maybe Shevchenko. But she has the skill set to be amazing and be a champion. Maybe not over Amanda Nunes, but once Nunes is gone, Vieta has the skill set to do it, but she doesn't have the mindset yet to get over that, to actually use her skills properly and capitalize on that. And it's too bad to see that, because it's just that psychological thing to get over. And I mean, when she gets over that, she's going to be absolutely amazing. And what's next for both of them? I mean, sadly, of course, we're never going to see Amisha Tate that's making a title run. I hate to say it. I don't want to, I don't like to see it either, because I like Tate. I want to see her succeed. But that's just, I just don't think that's in the cards anymore. And that's just too bad. And like I said, although she lost a close decision, it was only because Vieta made it close. She was never, that was really the other thing, is you could tell Vieta was never in danger at all. Like, you could tell the whole fight, Vieta's going to win this. I mean, unless she's not active enough. But, Tate never really had much. Vieta was just never in danger. And that's how you could tell. Again, all Vieta needed to do was push just a little bit harder, and she could have gotten that finish. And it's because of that. It's that lack of intensity. That's what I wrote down here. The lack of intensity and the killer instinct that tells me that Vieta is not quite ready to take that title fight yet. She has the potential for sure. As I said, she has the skills. She just needs to develop that intensity, that killer instinct to actually go in there, go for the finish. Don't worry about getting clipped a little bit. Like, you can take it, especially if you've already felt their power. You can take their power. Go in there, get it, get the finish, get it. So yeah, she just needs to work on that mindset. So what I would like to see is, I would love to see the rematch with Kunitskaya, because, I mean, a lot of people said that she won that. She thinks she won that, and she's probably right, because if she would have brought that extra intensity that I'm talking about, she probably would have won that, and I think she can pretty easily win that the next time out. So that makes a lot of sense to do, especially since she talked about it in the post-fight interview too. It makes a lot of sense. Kunitskaya also hasn't fought a whole lot, so it kind of makes sense there too. Holm would be another very interesting matchup. But again, without that mindset, though, you're talking about Holly Holm, like, not the most exciting fighter necessarily, but she has that champion mindset and the skills to back it up. So you've got to also have that mindset in there. So on paper, that would be an incredible fight. But if she doesn't bring that mindset in there, I don't think she's going to have a chance, which is why I think Kunitskaya is the perfect one. She can get that confidence back maybe too after losing that one. If she wins it, maybe even gets a finish here, gets that confidence going, then take on Holm or to go for the title shot then, then it makes more sense. But yeah, that was it for the night. The bonuses, there was no KO, so I didn't have a KO bonus. As I said, the sub of the night was the only sub, Taila Santos. And then the fight of the night, of course, as I said, Adrian Yanez against Davy Grant. What a fight. And then most valuable fighter, I had Lupi Godinez. And I mean, because not everybody can fight 3 times in 6 weeks. And again, we actually saw that was a record. But not only that, she fought in 2 different divisions, won 2 of the fights with a decent showing in the loss, again, in up a division. So yeah, we'll be seeing Godinez in the rankings for sure soon. I guarantee it. And the UFC, they need more fighters like this, really. They need fighters with that extra competitive spirit. Because we see too many people, they take a lot of time off, or they just don't fight, certain people. They're trying to keep those rankings together, whatever. Or they're trying to pick their fights more. But you need more people like this. She doesn't care who she fights. She's going to fight she even said, anybody, anytime. And she proved that again. That's why she is the most valuable fighter of the week. So yeah, we'll be back next week. Sadly, this is the end of the episode because, again, there's no fight next Saturday. And I didn't really pick a special topic. I couldn't think of one, honestly. But, shoot me a tweet or a DM or something. We can come up with a topic together. You could suggest one. I always listen to the comments. If people actually leave any, that doesn't normally happen, but that's another side point anyway. We'll be back next week. If you want to follow, all my socials are below. The Area 51 Network on my hat, of course, has all the other sports. They've got your hockey, your basketball, I think, your football, your soccer, everything. They've got everything. That is also below at Area 51. I will see you next week where we'll be talking about Font and Aldo. That is going to be a good one. I can't wait. See ya.